Hey guys, and welcome to another video. It's been a few days since I last talked to you guys about the most recent patch, the banditry in Crota. I wanted to give you a little update on how things have been going on my end. There haven't been so many YouTube videos, but of course the Twitch streams have been still rolling, and quite a lot has developed that I really feel like you guys should know. So today, I want to do a bit of an announcement of some very badass things upcoming, and I also want to throw in a couple of questions, give some Guild Wars 2 discussion in there while we're at it. So the footage in the background you should be looking at is of our guild hall, which is now no longer the Lost Precipice. So this is what these streams were covering this week. We've now swapped completely away from my preferred place to the Gilded Hollow. Why this is good news may not be readily apparent, but it has to do with the arena. So when I set up this Spud Club, what we originally were intending to do was a lot of cool game types and arenas and weird modes that take advantage of the unique opportunities available within ArenaNet's guild halls. But the problem with the Lost Precipice, as I've talked to you about before, is it has a very small area of actually legal combat space. So this idea that you could go in the arena and then you could drop down into the water below and have underwater battles, or you could build a giant tower that spirals out miles above it and fight your way to the top of it, that just doesn't work in the Lost Precipice, because for some arbitrary reason, the devs narrowed it down to a very small legal space. Perhaps even weirder then, they didn't do the same thing with the Gilded Hollow. The Gilded Hollow, on the other hand, has a huge amount of playable space, and I don't just mean the flat ground that the golden disc of the arena actually covers. I mean, above it, you can go really high up and still legally be able to battle, and you can even go underneath the arena in the Gilded Hollow and create a whole floor down below, like a basement floor, that again is all legal play space. So that's a huge difference. There is so much more creativity and leeway available to people to build interesting arenas. No longer is it really arenas, but it's like full-on PvP maps you can make. No, I'm genuinely serious. If you watch the footage in the background when you see I get into the Gilded Hollow arena, just the first mock-up some guildies have made, you'll see when we load in, we're like blocked off and you can turn around and drop down the other side into a lower floor and then climb up again, then climb even higher. It's massive. So this combined with the Super Adventure Box decorations, combined with the scribing reduced cost and the fact that I'm now a level 400 scribe, I mean, we can actually make a lot more interesting things. And we have our arena maxed out now, which as opposed to back the old days where we did like the zombies, or we did the 3v3s, or 1v1v1s, and then we did like the 1v1 tournaments. All that stuff, we were very restricted. These days, there is so much we can do. And through some incredible donations from people in the guild, we're going to start doing weekly giveaways where on the Sunday streams, we're going to do some kind of bizarre and fun, weird, like Last Man Standing or VIP or Assault or Capture the Flag or whatever Rumble Pit style game types where people can win Black Lion weapons, and we have a huge amount of Black Lion weapons, like loads and loads and loads and loads, enough to do this weekly for like a year, and people will get badass rewards. So it's really exciting, and it's where I kind of want to take the streams in the future. That's what I wanted to do with the streams. Hopefully it's fun enough that I can continue making videos. You guys did really like when I did like the 3-way slice on the ice montages and stuff. Hopefully we can rein it in. We'll get some people interested. You guys can participate in that, even if you're not a member of the guild. So that's mostly what's been going on this week. We've swapped the guild, and all the footage is me running through, showing you guys this original arena, but also some other areas too. Really phenomenal jumping puzzle. One of the kind of ideas for a video I wanted to do on the list for a long time now has been to show you guys what happens when you climb out of the Gilded Hollow. So for those that don't know, the Gilded Hollow as a guild hall is in a giant cave. It's deep below the surface of Tyria. Well, not that deep, but it's pretty deep. And generally speaking, it's kind of secluded. But if you make a jumping puzzle or use decoration to break out of the map and just climb and climb and climb and climb, you can find all manner of fantastic things, like a temple up there and a dragony wyvern statue thing. And if you continue climbing, you can actually escape. And in this video, you'll see you end up in a desert, basically. It's really cool. And there's a jumping puzzle we'll be playing as we do some questions here, exploring that desert. So yeah, we've stopped to the Gilded Hollow. Please do feel free to join in on this stuff, guys. It's going to be the Sunday streams, and you don't have to be a member of the guild or anything. You can just come along and win some cool prizes and have fun. It's not like hardcore PvP. They're just fun, weird little modes, and that's mostly what we've been doing. The other stuff that's been going on is Tomb Raider is underway. The Tomb Raider Let's Play will be getting very, very soon, but things are still kind of shaky for me as I'm moving out next week. Those who watched the Patreon vlog from the last time we talked about this will know a bit more details, but next week or maybe slightly into the week after that, I'm going to be moving out, so there's preparation stuff going on there to, you know, get me ready. And the videos might be still on the lower side. I just wanted to let you guys know how that's running. And And yeah, basically what's up. So yeah, that would be the whole video, but I figured let's throw some questions in. We did do a Q&A the other day. Let's have some talk so you guys actually get to see some more of the Guildhall footage and see what you guys think. So the first one is from Herminera. I used to do this all the time. I do like vloggy stuff and then video Q&A afterwards. Herminia says, "Hey WP, sadly I have never had the time to play Guild Wars 2, but I started following you somewhere during the Guild Wars 1 to Guild Wars 2 transition, and I never really stopped because I enjoy your approach and the early lore-focused content. Nevertheless, now I find myself having a little bit more spare time. I wondered if starting from scratch would be the best bet for me, or what you would suggest to get back in touch with the game and all the features that are around nowadays." See, it's kind of interesting. For the longest time, if someone asked me a question about this, hey, should I get into Guild Wars 2? I would caution them and say, oh, maybe you shouldn't, because there might be big changes. There might be big things to come. They might change this, they might change this. But I've explained this a few times before. We now know so clearly where ArenaNet's focus is. And we know they don't really care about the personal story or the early leveling experience and stuff like that anymore. You can't really expect too many changes there, and the game is what the game is. So I would recommend, if you do still fancy playing, there is still a huge population of people in it, I would do it now, because there's no, like, massive difference that you're going to miss out on, right? Like, they're not going to suddenly change the way that leveling works or introduce a bunch of brand new awesome features that affect totally new players. This is the experience, and this is a much better experience than we got, say, when the core game released and there weren't champ bags and all that stuff. So I think you should just go in, play a new character. Another common question I usually get is, hey, WP, I used to play, I've left, and now I'm coming back. I logged into my character, and I've got all these random items and mails telling me about how PvP's changed, and I've got all this stuff. I have no idea what any of the value is anymore. What should I do? My advice to all those people is just make a new character, man. Just, even if it's the same class. If you used to play like a Guardian and you've come back but you don't even remember how your old Guardian is, it doesn't matter. Just play another Guardian. Just make a new character and go through it, because that really is the best way to get comfortable. And even though a couple of years have passed, the game had a strong leveling experience in 2012. It has a stronger one now. So the next question is from Mook Porks. Or MC Porks? Sorry, Mr. Porks. Oh, God. My ability to read, apparently, has gone out the window. He says, do you think there'll be any connection between Cordicus's mana and the new raid wing, based on all the bandit activity increasing and such? So I like this question because, obviously, I think that's the main thing most people are thinking about at the moment, what's going on with this new patch. And I did want to show you guys an image. There was a post on our subreddit where some people were talking about the actual maps that you see the bandits in, and where this, like, event actually affects. And you'll notice, because don't forget that the bandits are in the Silver Waste too, and you can get those encoded items from the Silver Waste as well. You'll notice that the bandits kind of form like this ring, as you'll see here, that all points into some central map above. I mean, this is all pointing, all hinting at the northern Brisbane Wildlands map. Is that where we're going to go next in Living World Season 3? Instead of right on over, or, you know, that other area, we're going to be going here instead? I don't know. I think that could be really, really, really possible. How this connects to Cordicus then, though, if that is what happens, is a bit weakened, because we know principally Cordicus is in a different area of the world, sort of. He's over in Beetleton. There is another connection that's kind of interesting. People were talking about when Wing 2 released, and this is the fact that we've heard the bodies and some of these people that have been getting sacrificed by the bandits of the Forsaken Thicket. These bandits have been getting people from Beetleton. Beetleton, where Cordicus is. So is there some connection? I think it's highly likely. Yes, I think that Cordicus, if we're going to go into a world where there's much more White Mantle, Bandit, human-based story, Shining Blade's already getting more involved, as we've seen. I think the Ministry Guard, I think Cordicus, I think the Ministers in general, and yeah, the Seraph and Logan Thackeray and company, I think they're all going to come forward. And Cordicus has been sat back for so long now. I mean, when was the last time his story was properly progressed? Wasn't it the end of Cordicus's Manor, the dungeon, which itself is like in the first half of the personal story? It was like a long, long, long time ago. I think we haven't had any updates from him since then. I remember that one of the Season 1 updates, they had the Jubilee, and Cordicus was told, and the Ministry Guard, I think, were expressly told by the Queen that they couldn't participate. I think that was a thing, but very minor. So, yeah, I think there'll be a connection. Here's where I want the story to go most, if people are vaguely interested in this, though. And that's not... I don't want to see Cordicus be 100% affiliated with White Mantle and Massart motivations, and they just kind of throw him in with that lot as an enemy to kill as the White Mantle gain power again. I would rather see that, yes, he may have some affiliation, maybe he's been funding the bandits and the White Mantle, and there's been some connection there. But I'd rather see that Cordicus is still an individual who's a bit of an asshole and wants power, but isn't all about the White Mantle. He's just trying to use them for himself. And so he's still kind of like a third party. And why I like this idea is because this leads really nicely into another chapter of human storylines. If there's some kind of massive attack on the capital, and especially if the queen dies. Like, you've got a story here where White Mantle grow in power, reveal themselves to have found Massart once again, attack the capital. I've talked for so long about the Queen dying for years now, even way back to Season 1 updates. If the Queen were to get assassinated by the White Mantle, we get to be the heroes who then kill the White Mantle and end the threat. But then who steps into this power vacuum? Cordicus does. And then we can move into like a new branch, right? A new chapter of the human storyline where Cordicus has become king. And we get to see how good or bad that actually ends up being. And it's kind of a natural way of things rolling forward, instead of just, oh yeah, let's kill all the White Mantle, all the Massart, and deal with all the Cordicus stuff. Get rid of the Ministry Guard while we're at it. There we go, fairy tale happy ending. I don't know. That's kind of where I'd like to see things go. Keep that complexity in there. We'll see what you guys have to say. Next question is from Noctily, who said, so WP, have you started the PvP season yet, or were you keeping busy with the PvE stuff? Warrior actually ended up being S tier according to the PvP Pro League players. Your choice wasn't bad after all. So I did respond to this person in the written comments, but most people will have missed that. I am playing a bit of PvP. The main news here is this is the main thing I've been doing in the game. A lot of people ask me or may think that I spend all my time raiding or all my time farming or doing God knows what in PvE. But honestly, I've exhausted PvE. I still really haven't stepped into world versus world. It's a bit intimidating to me at this point. Most of all I do in Guild Wars 2 anymore, most of all I do is PvP. I PvP'd a lot in Season 2. I PvP'd a lot between the 2 seasons. And since Season 3 came out, I've been doing a load. I'm 4 days away now from my legendary back piece. That'll be my first legendary back that I've ever got. I barely have any progress towards any fractal-based ones. And yeah, I'm doing a lot of Season 3. But Season 3, I am not sticking with Warrior. I opened Season 3 with a terrible, atrocious, abysmal losing spree of the likes I have not experienced in any season until now. I wouldn't say I'm terrible at Warrior, and I was winning 1v1s and stuff, but there must be something I'm doing terribly. I'll openly admit I must be roaming badly, I must be doing something, because I lost. Like, if I played 10 games, I probably lost 8 of them and won 2. It was really bad, and that was consistent for a long time. So, actually, how I'm treating this season now is I'm swapping class for class for class, trying a bit of Necro, Mesmer, Ellie, and Warrior all at once, and I'm, like, swapping to suit. I could do a bit of Dragon Hunter, but I wasn't enjoying my time on a Dragon Hunter too much. So those are like the 4 that I'm mostly going for, and I'm trying to play the smartest class I can based on comp this season. And so far it's going okay, but I'm not even Ruby yet, and I started in Sapphire, so I can't say that I'm doing incredible, but I have been playing it a lot, I'll say that much. Next and last of all, a very interesting question I was quite happy to see, comes from Lawrence Tahar, who says, hey WP, I have no idea whether you read this. Of course I will, but do you think the Scepter of Ore will still play a role in Guild Wars 2, or do you just think it's a drop storyline in the Zaitan story? We've talked about the Scepter of Ore a couple of times. Those that don't know, this is an artifact that was said to have come from Ore that allowed the wielder to command that of the spirit realm, or spirits and energy. Vizier Kilbron, once upon a time, sought out this scepter so that when he had it, he could control the Titans, creatures that had been built by a god, Abaddon, to try and rule the world. And Vizier Kilbron also hated the Massart, for what it's worth. But the Scepter of Ore had kind of an interesting role in the franchise so far, in that in Prophecies, it was very important. It was a big part of the story. Prophecies really was lots and lots of twists and turns, and it was kind of, a lot of people came out of Prophecies actually with the wrong idea of what the Scepter of Ore did. They thought that the Scepter of Ore allowed you to control the undead, but that's not necessarily true. It's because it was a lich. But the Scepter of Ore was very important for Prophecies right at the start of the franchise, and what they did at the end of Prophecies was show us a cutscene where the scepter mysteriously vanishes, very specifically suggesting that they've got more stories for it in the future, okay? This thing disappears, and they suggest that there's more stories. Then Factions comes out, there's nothing. Nightfall comes out, and there's a sort of a vague story. But when Eye of the North comes out, which is all about setting up Guild Wars 2, you see, they show us the scepter again, right at the end. They show it in the hands of Livia. They show us that scepter, suggesting it's going to have a big role in Guild Wars 2. And what does Guild Wars 2 open with? Well, once again, kind of this idea of undeath, I suppose. Vizier Kilbron was a lich. Livia was a very powerful necromancer, still seems to be alive, may have some relation to lichdom. And obviously, we're fighting the Elder Dragon of Death. It seems mostly like the Scepter of Ore was going to have a big role to play in the Zhaitan arc, but then it never did in the end. And there were a lot of very hot, very cool things that the devs could have really used a lot of in the Zhaitan arc, and they never did in the end. Stuff like, for example, the Tome of the Rubicon got a look in Edgewise, which was this book with all these details written by the dwarves of the Elder Dragons, and they kind of reference it, but it never really goes anywhere because they're very, very quick to move on because of the way that the personal story was structured. But then the Scepter of Ore was just kind of left. And so it's in an interesting place now. Heart of Thorns has come out. Heart of Thorns did very few stories. Heart of Thorns didn't touch on it. There isn't a single character in the established story of the living world or the main story, anyone in Destiny's Edge, anyone in Destiny's Edge 2.0, anyone really except maybe on the human side of things, and you believe these Livia being Anise kind of theories. Really, there's very little that suggests the Scepter of Ore should have anything to do with Guild Wars 2 ever again. And that makes me sad, because if you go back and play Guild Wars 1, all this stuff I just talked about, it's also apparent and it's also obvious. If you go to Guild Wars 1 as a Guild Wars 2 player these days, and you do it just to play and experience the story, one of the first things you're really dealing with is you go through prophecies and you're learning about the Scepter of Ore. That's the first thing you're dealing with. And then once the last things you're dealing with is that cutscene where you're faced once again with the Scepter, and it just feels like that it was supposed to be so important. And now it doesn't even feel like it fits naturally anymore. I mean, I'm sure they could write it so it does fit naturally, but it makes me sad. To me, this is the Guild Wars equivalent for anyone who ever got into the Pokemon anime. Yeah, okay, the Pokemon anime. In, like, the second season of the Pokemon anime, they basically did the same thing. The GS Ball, okay? This is the GS Ball of Guild Wars. This cool artifact that they set up this big story, and then they just never go back to it, and they hope people will forget about it. And I guess most people have forgotten about it. So I don't know how I feel about its return anymore. I would love it, personally, but how many people are asking for it becomes less and less so as time goes on, and as the story becomes less and less related to it as time goes on. So yeah, but there you go, guys. Thanks very much for watching the video. Again, be sure to tune in on the Sunday streams to check out some of these arenas, to check out this cool stuff. The guild hall is looking amazing already. We're going to start clearing the decorations, like maybe even on a weekly basis, because we're already global capped, so new people can come in and decorate again, and then I'll like maybe start including more footage of it as the videos go by. You'll all have to let me know what you think about that. But thanks again, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll try to get a lot more out very soon, especially once real life stuff settled down. But until then, hope you're having a wonderful time, and I'll see you next time. Their size. There's a little bit to touch on all three formats of the game. So let's just jump straight in. Now, I will say, unlisted, as in ArenaNet didn't put it on their official notes, there was a bit of a change to the UI for those of you who use a lot of shared inventory slots. I know this is a bit of a boring thing, but as you can see there, they now appear on their own row. I know a lot of people have wanted to be able to move that one row around and like choose exactly where that stuff is. That's not available yet, but it's a start, I guess, at least, and it's an